There are two node methods that we can use to remove a node from the DOM, remove and remove child. We'll discuss both in this lesson, and you will learn about the node property of first element child as well. For the remove method, you must have a reference to the exact node to remove. Let's say that we had one stored in a variable called node2remove. Then we can directly call the remove method on it to remove it from the DOM. For remove child, you need a reference to a parent node. Let's say that we had one stored in a variable called parent node. Then we use remove child on that node. This method requires an argument of the specific child for the parent to remove, such as parent node.firstChild. Now, one thing to be aware of is that when you remove a node, it removes the whole branch. So all the children of that node are removed along with it. That's true whether you use remove or remove child. There may be times that you want to remove all the children of a node, but you don't want to delete the actual node itself. There's a way that you can combine remove child with a while loop to do that. It goes like this. This loop condition says that as long as the parent node has a first child, then the program will enter the loop and remove that first child. If there are still any children left, the next child becomes the new first child. So when this loop goes back up and checks the condition again, the condition will evaluate as true, and we go back in the loop and remove that child, and repeat until there are no more children of the parent node left. This is how you can remove all the children of a node without removing the node itself. There's one more concept I want to go over briefly. Why this is important will become clear during the following demonstration. You already know about first child. First element child works in the same way. You use it as a property of a parent node, and it will give you the first element child of the parent node, skipping any text or other kinds of nodes. With that understanding, let's move to the demonstration. The code for this demo is in the lesson page, and I advise you to download it and follow along. Here we have our typical demo setup. Some HTML including a few buttons with onClick handlers that call 3 different functions. The HTML includes an unordered list, and the UL element has an ID of MyList. Inside the script element, you see that I've used document.querySelector to locate that UL element by its ID, MyList, and I'm storing a reference to it in this list node variable, which I'm using as a global variable so that all 3 functions can access it. This first function, which corresponds to the first button, takes that list node and removes its first child using the remove child method. The second function uses that same code inside a while loop with the condition listNode.firstChild. That means that this will remove all the children of the list node. The list node is the UL element, so that means this code will remove all the list items inside it, not just the first one. But it won't remove the list node itself, so the UL element will be preserved. The third function uses the remove method on the list node itself, which means that it will remove the entire node, including all its children. So it removes the UL element and all the list items. Let's test this. Going to the browser, I'm going to open the Developer Tools to the Elements tab and expand this UL element so that I can see what's going on when I click the buttons. I'm going to start from the bottom up. When I click on this third button, you can see that it removes the entire UL element, including all its children. Okay, now I'm going to reload the page to bring it back and expand the UL element over here again. Now I'll click the second button. This time it removed all the list items, but it left the UL element as is. You can see that the UL no longer has any children, so it doesn't show anything in the browser display, but the UL element is still there. So far, so good. I'll reload again and try the first button. Nothing happened when I clicked. I'll click it again. This time, it did work and the first list item was removed. If I click a few more times, a pattern emerges. It's only working on every other click. I have to click twice to remove each list item. Why is this? By the way, if you're not following along by now using the demo code, I really suggest that you do. It will help a lot to understand this. Okay, remember when I talked about whitespace nodes? That's what's happening. In the HTML, there are new lines that are creating whitespace nodes. I can show you in the JavaScript console. I suggest you follow along with me using the demo code in your own console. Let me refresh this page. Then in the console, I'm going to type listnode.childNodes and press enter. This gives me the node list of all the child nodes of listnode. And you can see that there are text nodes that are siblings to the list item nodes. These text nodes are not the text that you're seeing with Chicago Bulls, Portland Trail Blazers, and so on. Those text nodes are the children of the list item nodes, not siblings. If I expand one of these text nodes, I can see that the text content is this new line. Actually, a new line plus a tab is what you're seeing here. Back in the code, this is the white space that's creating that text node. That means that when you click on this first button, and it looks like nothing has changed, what has actually changed is that the whitespace text node was removed, which you can verify by again checking listnode.childNodes in the console. You can see that the first text node is gone. Now if I click again and check again in the console, the first list item is gone. If I click again and check again in the console, the next text node is gone. This is a very common issue with whitespace nodes, where people can get very frustrated because they don't understand what's happening when they try to remove a node and it looks like nothing was removed. In this case, the best way to deal with this is by using first element child instead of first child in the code here. Then it will be sure to remove the first list item instead of the first text node. Back in the browser, you can test for yourself and see that it's working. Each click removes a list item node instead of every other click. That's all for this demonstration. Now you understand how to remove nodes in a few different ways, and you understand how to avoid a common pitfall with whitespace nodes. Again, I encourage you to play with the demo code. Try combining things that you've learned. Try creating a node and adding it to the demo code, then deleting it. For example, you could create an HTML reset button that, when you click it, creates the list on the page again via JavaScript, as if you had refreshed the page. Another challenge could be to figure out how to use a loop to go through all the child nodes of a node and remove every other child. There are many ways to combine what you've learned. See what challenges you can come up with for yourself.